This presentation will cover freedom of expression, controlling access to information on the Internet. While relatively young, the Internet has revolutionized the sharing of information and ideas across the globe. According to Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. We will explore the ethical implications of controlling Internet information access. The history of free speech can be dated as far back as ancient Greece, where the Greeks pioneered free speech as a democratic principle. For the U.S., the Bill of Rights, and specifically the First Amendment, is what protects free speech. The judicial system has worked through the years to help set the boundaries of what is and is not protected as free speech or expression. Freedom of expression has been the driving force behind many of society's most historical progressive movements. Brown v. Louisiana of 1966 is one such case, where a silent sit-in protesting segregation resulted in the individuals involved being arrested. The Supreme Court ruled that the demonstration was in fact protected symbolic speech under the First Amendment. In a separate case from World War I, Schenck v. United States, Mr. Schenck had been charged with conspiracy to violate the Espionage Act. He had been passing out leaflets urging fellow citizens to disobey the active draft. Mr. Schenck appealed, citing violation of his First Amendment and that his protest was protected speech. Unanimously, the courts disagreed, citing the clear and present danger to the nation during a global war. Cases such as these have shaped and defined the minutiae and protections of free speech while driving positive change and setting limits. The first test of free speech in the digital age came in 1997 with the landmark Supreme Court case of Reno versus the American Civil Liberties Union. The Communications Decency Act, signed into law in 1996, was the first attempt by Congress to regulate material on the Internet. Two provisions together prohibited any individual from transmitting obscene or indecent messages or knowingly displaying patently offensive materials in a manner available to those under 18. The ACLU argued that indecent and patently offensive were unconstitutionally broad terms and would criminalize protected speech under the First Amendment. Unanimously, the Supreme Court agreed. Justice Stevens delivered the court's final opinion in closing. His opinion and the court's ruling acknowledged the already exponential growth of the Internet and its responsibility in transmitting new ideas and information, protecting the accessibility and freedoms of cyberspace. While the U.S. and other democratic nations maintain strong protections for free speech, not all nations do. China's Golden Shield project censors information to protect its regimes. An empirical study conducted by the OpenNet Initiative concluded that China has the most sophisticated content filtering internet regime in the world. Their tools and methods utilized include IP blocking, packet filtering, credit records, and speech and facial recognition. An illustrative example of the differences in policy can be seen with the three most popular sites in America being blocked by China's Great Firewall. This includes Google, Facebook, and Yahoo. It is critical as citizens to be able to question the motives and actions of our government, to hold civil discourse on politics, and to campaign for elections and uphold democratic values. The free exchange of information on the Internet allows for this, despite the potential risks associated with harmful content and sometimes negative aspect of unrestricted free speech. Governmental regulation, especially to the extent as seen in China, detrimentally affects its citizens by removing their voice and suppressing dissent. While the ruling party of China may claim national security as justification, the fact remains their citizens remain under daily human rights violations, limiting intellectual freedom and normalizing government surveillance. Just as the Supreme Court ruled in Reno versus ACLU, it is paramount to maintain minimal restrictions on free speech, especially to what could be the greatest medium of mass communication ever produced. The debate over controlling access to information on the Internet is far from over, as it is a dynamic and evolving issue that will continue to challenge politicians, technologists, and citizens for years to come. As the frontier of the Internet continues to change, it stresses the importance of transparent, open dialogue and the free exchange of information. Working together is the best way to ensure policies are created that have the humanitarian interests and security of citizens at the forefront.